I calculated my odds of death or serious injury at only 5%. In 2010, I set out on the adventure of a lifetime. The trip would take me across 6 time zones and introduce me to people and places I could never have imagined, including many couchsurfers who had never previously met a foreigner, let alone a traveller. The object of my obsession was Far Eastern Russia, a place of bears and wild rivers, unknown to tourists and profoundly difficult to get to. I flew to Beijing and proceeded via the most direct route. I proceeded by train, plane and Russian 4-wheel drive across Mongolia. After hanging out with some of the locals, I sped to Biysk, where couchsurfer Yelena and her friends took very good care of me. In Novosibirsk, fellow couchsurfers from Belarus showed me how to make the national dish from potatoes, or kartoshka. At Taishet, I had to decode the train timetable in order to get to Bratsk, where couchsurfer Dasha was waiting for me. Before long, I was travelling the Baikalo-Amurskaya Magistral, or BAM Railway for short, through the impossibly remote and beautiful Kodar mountain range. Next stop was Severobaykalsk, where I relaxed by playing piano and hanging out at the beach. I also took the time to explore the abandoned tuberculosis sanatorium at Nizhny Angarsk, but all too soon it was time to pack up and leave this beautiful place.
It's day 33. I'm on top of an abandoned building in the city of Novaya Chara in the middle of Siberia. Unfortunately the hotel is full tonight, so I might stay here.
Fortunately, I was able to cut my losses and explore the unique dune formation nearby.
Here I am, who would have thought? A set of sand dunes in the middle of Siberia. So you can't see a huge mountain range behind me, but I can just. I'm standing knee-deep in a river I have to cross before I get back to the track that might take me back to the town that I need to hitchhike back to the other town from. While I'm sitting here, I'm dodging about 40,000.
The next day I arrived in Tinda, the half-abandoned capital of the BAM, and explored forgotten monuments with the couchsurfer Katya. Later that day I infiltrated a coal mine vehicle maintenance shed.
I'm here in the repair factory of some small trucks in Russia. In this room they're doing welding. It's pretty extraordinary.
This is Amga. It's a town about halfway along the M56, the worst road in the world, as recorded a number of years ago when about 3 cars vanished without a trace.
At last I was at Yakutsk, the official beginning of my journey, where I shot a short film with local couchsurfers and visited an underground museum made of ice. As I crossed the Lena na Parom, the die was cast. From here I could not go back, and things were only getting stranger. It took 2 days to hitchhike across the flat plains between the Lena and the Aldan River, and after crossing the Aldan River, the Road of Bones truly began. I slept the night in a tiny hotel in Kandiga, before walking the next morning to the end of the tarmac.
So here I am. I'm at the start of the Colombo Highway, otherwise known as the Road of Bones. Behind me the tar peters out and the road begins about 1700 kilometres to the ocean city of Magadan. It's raining slightly. I've been here about half an hour and 2 cars have gone past, both hunters who are now shooting stuff in the background, so not rides. Neither of them stopped, and the first one was a larder, so probably no loss. I hope I get a lift in the next 4 hours. Otherwise getting to Tomtor by this evening will be an adventure to say the least. Well, I've been waiting for 3 hours for a car here at Kandiga and I'm sick of the view, so I'm walking a couple hundred metres further down the road. See if I can be eaten by mosquitoes here instead. To Magadan. To Yakutsk. According to this sign, I am 434 kilometres from Yakutsk and 1600 kilometres from Magadan, so a little over 1/5 of the way.
Shortly after this larder dropped me off, it began to rain. It was early August and the autumn had already begun. We paused outside the hamlet of Razvilka for a quick lunch. This section of the road was one of the most terrifying parts of the entire trip. A narrow, muddy road cut through the unstable banks of a raging torrent, snaked along the side. The wheels crunched mere inches from the edge, otherwise marked by frequent memorials to people who had fallen off. On several occasions the trailer of the truck shuddered to the right, and I was sure we'd fall. At last we crossed the rickety bridge to relative safety, and left behind the remains of an earlier bridge.
This valley is 1/3 of the way to Magadan.
Next morning I packed my tent, paid my respects to a recent victim of the freezing cold, ate some breakfast, and before long we were in Oymyakonsky Rayon, the coldest state in the northern hemisphere.
I've just left the main road here at turn-off, 752 kilometres from Yakutsk. I'm walking about a K, I think, to Kandiga. The truck drivers just farewelled me. Hopefully I won't get eaten by a bear.
Like its bridge, Kybyme was an utter ruin. I met some local salvagers and had breakfast of kasha with them.
This is one of the more functional buildings in Kybyme, a town which appears to be entirely abandoned except for 5 men I found here doing work, either fishing or rebuilding or something. I had breakfast with one of them and helped one of them who'd cut his arm very badly in glass 10 days ago. Seems to be slightly infected. The front door we see here, very thick insulation and a door bed.
An abandoned pram, the theatre, waiting for a lift, normal face, happy face.
It's now 8 PM. The car I thought was coming previously was on a different road. The main road about 2 kilometres away. I can see cars going back and forth about 3 times every hour. Behind me is the old Colombo Highway. 150 kilometres away is Tomtor. I don't think I'm going to get a car today. I might get one tomorrow. If not, then I'll cut my losses and onto Usnera.
I cooked some dinner as the sun went down at about 10 PM, although it never really got dark.
This is the bridge to Kybyme, which may explain why there is so little traffic on this road. It's the next day and I've decided to walk back to the main road and take the first car that's going in any direction I could be bothered going in. That is anywhere but Yakutsk. So right now I'm trying not to fall between gaps in the decking, and soon you'll see the main reason why this bridge, well, it's still useful, I guess. This should be fun.
Eventually I got a lift to Usnera, where the couchsurfer Natella and her friends, none of whom had met a foreigner previously, took very good care of me. I even got a write-up in the local newspaper.
This is the sign that says 1017. managed to hitchhike about 300 k's today to the abandoned city of Kadikchen on the junction of the old and new road, one from Tomtor, one from Osnera, and the rest going towards Susuman and Magadan. This is seriously weird.
I walked up the overgrown main street.
Currently I'm on the third floor of an abandoned housing block, pretty close to the middle of Kadikchen. Out the window you can see the central square or ploshad with Lenin somewhere there. And in this room is the remains of fire damage. There's some floorboards that remain and other broken stuff. The question remains whether I sleep in here tonight or somewhere outside in my tent. I've climbed onto the roof of a school. It seems to have facilities for about 1,000 students, including a gymnasium, basketball court, several music tuition rooms, several different science labs, many lecture theatres, a library, staff facilities, multiple bathrooms on every floor, all that sort of stuff. Now completely abandoned, obviously, about 15 years. Quite a number of books are left downstairs, a lot of stuff. I'm now looking towards the central square, surrounded by dead silence.
Cultural relics. I explored the rest of the city, then hung my hammock between two trees on the side of the main road.
It's now midday of the 6th of August 2010. I camped overnight in Kadikchen, and now the sun has come out almost enough to cast a shadow. It's still raining slightly, and I'm about to walk about 12 k's to the next town, Mounja, which I think might also be abandoned, but I'm not sure.
At the junction, the driver of this truck gave me some lunch, then I walked into town. After checking out the local political graffiti, I introduced some of the people there to couchsurfing, and before long it was time to be on my way. In Susuman, I found a plane stuck in a building, some awesome murals, and before long I was in Yagodnaya. While waiting for a lift, I visited the cemetery in Yagodnaya.
I'm at Devin, means left bank, once the headquarters of the Kolyma Gulag, now home to 70 people and a bunch of abandoned.
At this point, I was more than 3/4 of the way and on a roll. Next stop was Orotukan, where I got a lift that I thought would take me all the way to Magadan.
Красиво, да?
Да, очень красивый.
Dodging trucks under perfect skies, we were making excellent time. I crawled out through the windshield.
We flipped the car. It did 1 1/4 rotations after spinning out on this corner, coming over the inside and flipping, lost a tyre. Everyone's alive.
We were extremely lucky to go off the inside of the curve. I arrived in Magadan the following morning. I suspected I'd broken my back, so I got some x-rays and assessed the extent of my injuries. I also met up with the same traveller I'd met in Yakutsk. So here I am in Magadan. It's a very interesting city. You can smell the sea. I even saw it earlier today. Seabirds squawking. Wide avenues. I'm still alive after the crash. It's very pleasant. The X-rays this morning confirmed that I don't have a broken back, which is some of the best news I've received. I stayed with couchsurfers while I recovered from my injuries. I explored Magadan, including the seashore and the Mask of Sorrow, or Maska Skorbi, an interesting memorial to the estimated 6 million political prisoners who lost their lives in the column of Gulag.
This is TV Tower at the top of Ulica Lenina, I believe. Nice to look down here, across the road. It's looking down the main street of Magadan, which arguably is the longest main street in the world. It continues more than 1,700 kilometers beyond Kandiga to the bank of the Aldan River. I found a use for my science degree repairing the Guitar Hero set belonging to my Couchsurf host, but all too soon it was time to leave. The rest of this story involves climbing active volcanoes in Kamchatka, talking to bears, talking to baby bears, flying helicopters to visit more active volcanoes in Kamchatka, visiting the Valley of the Geysers, recreating photos from my previous trip to Vladivostok, and hanging out with more couchsurfers before returning home. Thanks for watching.